Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be sharing a fun story time for you. My son had some paperwork that I had to fill out, and it was for a bunch of field trips that were coming up. And so I had to fill out the same information over and over and over again. And it was so annoying. I mean, I know it's necessary, but it reminded me of the time that I had to deal with the most unnecessary, most burdensome, and just the dumbest paperwork I've ever had to deal with in my professional working career. And I have worked for JAG. Any of you who are in the military, whether you're active duty or a civilian, I was a civilian in the military, so I did not have nearly the amount of paperwork that active duty service members did, but I've dealt with a lot of paperwork in my day, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape. But despite those mountains of paperwork in the military, the dumbest by far is something that I had to deal with while I was at Louis Vuitton. And I will share that story with you today. Okay, now when I was working at LV, I enjoyed going out to lunch with my coworkers sometimes. There were a bunch of lunch places nearby. And occasionally we would get things delivered. We had a very large break room. I talked about how my coworkers used to steal my food from my locker, but just like a normal workplace. It was just like almost like a normal office, except we were a store. And so you could bring lunch, you could have lunch delivered, you could go out to lunch, whatever. I would often get lunch delivered. I had a couple close colleague friends at LV that we would order together, because a lot of times, this was before Uber Eats, this was before DoorDash, where you had to call the place directly and place an order. And a lot of times it had to be a minimum amount. So me and maybe one of my other coworkers that I was friends with, we would order lunch together and it would be enough for delivery. Well, one day, this one coworker, who shall remain nameless, she was probably the most unpleasant of my coworkers. And I did a whole video on toxic work culture at LV. So check that one out. I talk about coworkers who would steal clients, steal sales, whatever. But just on a personal level, this one colleague was particularly just nasty, I think, to everyone, which was fine. I was very young. I just kind of dealt with all the verbal abuse and anger and toxicity in the workplace. But I was ordering lunch with a coworker of mine, and this other kind of a mean coworker went to our store director and complained that we were ordering lunch without her. And because she's only one person, she can't order lunch because, again, some of these food delivery places have a certain minimum, and therefore what she was ordering wasn't enough to trigger a minimum delivery, I guess. It's one of those situations where you're like, okay, I realized that, right? I realized that, me as the youngest person in the workplace, I realized there was a minimum amount required for a delivery. And so I would personally go to a friend, one of my closer colleague friends, and ask, hey, did you bring your lunch? Did you want to order something? And we figured it out like adults. But she was so upset in her mind that she was being left out of the pool of, I don't know, being able to order lunch, I guess. But instead of approaching us and asking us, she went directly to the store director and complained that we were leaving her out. Looking back in hindsight, it's just such a funny situation because of what ended up happening. So instead of the store director letting her know, okay, well, you can certainly ask them yourselves when you want lunch that day, hey, are you ordering? Like, can I get in on that? We'll split it. And not by get in on it. We still obviously had to pay our portion of it, or whatever, we would pay each other back, whatever it was. But it's just one of those situations where, like, you don't need to involve the store director, you don't need to involve your boss because you think your coworkers are being mean and excluding you just because they're ordering lunch on their own. The store director at our next meeting had a piece of paper, a form that she typed out, and it was called like lunch ordering form. It was basically an Excel spreadsheet, and it was like coworker name, restaurant name, item ordered, price, and that was it. And so suddenly this became a new task, usually me, having to go around and ask people what they're ordering, where they're ordering from, and then if we're all ordering from the same place, collect the money and make sure we ask this one, I don't know what to call her, let's call her Karen. And asking the Karen coworker, hey, do you want to order from this place? We basically had to kowtow to her, this one coworker. So because this one coworker was complaining that other factions in her mind of her coworkers were getting together, excluding her and ordering lunch on their own, she made it so that the store director was mandating that now we all had to use this centralized form and order lunch. And it was so insane to me because we had to use it. And again, by default, it was either me or honestly, it was the security guard. Like I was close friends with one of the security guards and one of another coworker, and we all kind of rotated being in charge of ordering food. So in theory, I guess the store director thought she was doing a good thing and, forcing us to include this Karen coworker. But in reality, what ended up happening was a free-for-all. And so people were just writing their names down, writing what they were ordering, and then whoever was in charge of ordering it would order. And then when the delivery guy came, they didn't have enough money because the other people ordering didn't give their money in. It just was such a mess. And I wish I had the form. It just was, just to show you like as a visual, it was definitely a perfect example of a time where there was a problem for one person, and instead of solving it herself, which would be to just ask us if we wanted to order with her, which we definitely would have. Like she didn't even ask us. She just was mad that we were ordering lunch without her and then went directly to our boss to complain about it and make her do something about it. So yeah, instead of doing that, she completely escalated a problem that didn't even need to exist. And that basically sums up almost my entire experience working at LV. In my toxic work culture video, I talked about how I created a form myself, but that was because I was basically in charge of the entire shipping operations receiving department, which was a department of me, even though I was technically only a client advisor. My coworkers were throwing packages at me and telling me, oh, this needs to go here, this needs to go there, and their addresses were all crazy for the clients. It just was a mess. And so I was like, no, we need an orderly system. Here is this form. If you want me to send something, fill this information out, and then I will go and do it. And then and this way I could track and, say, yes, this was shipped, this was picked up, whatever. I feel like that was an example of a form that was necessary. This lunch ordering form was just so unnecessary and so stupid. And fortunately, once my store director saw how it was creating so much chaos, it quickly, fell by the wayside and everyone just started going back to doing their own thing for lunch. And the Karen kind of figured out how to order lunch on her own without forcing us to buddy up with her, I guess. So yeah, just my son's field trip permission forms for school, which is a necessary form. Filling those forms out over and over for the multiple field trips with the same information, it just triggered something in me, guys. I'm sorry. It reminded me of this lunch form and I had to come on here and talk about it with you. So yeah, I just thought it was so funny that even though I literally worked for the government and for the military, where they are known for their red tape and mountains of paperwork, the dumbest paperwork I ever had to fill out over and over was at Louis Vuitton, and it was just to order lunch with a coworker that nobody really liked. So just another LV story time. Let me know if you in your 9-to-5 office jobs have had to deal with any kind of forms. It kind of reminded me of Office Space with the TPS report or the TPS memo. Just dreary, dreary paperwork that nobody wants to deal with. But that was the life of an LV employee, creating more paperwork that only created more problems and did not offer any solutions. I did a YouTube Q&A video and one of the questions was whether I missed working at the office. And I did say I did not miss working at the office, but those stories are really funny. So I will always cherish these memories. But yeah, let me know about any of your annoying, burdensome paperwork at the office. So I hope you enjoyed my LV Storytime paperwork drama. Thanks so much for watching and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.